When my kids were little, they used to always ask me to open my eyes. And I would say, my eyes are open. And they would tease me because I would open my eyes wide and they would joke and say my eyes are like Chinese because I can't open them. We're talking about opening our eyes today, trying to understand why things are the way they are sometimes. And today's as good as any other day for this kind of story time video. Some years ago, I was in Jamaica getting ready for my big day. I was going to a bridal shop with my sister-in-law. And when we got off, we took public transit. And when we got off the bus, I heard a commotion, loud noise, and what would sound like gunshots. And, of course, being away for so many years, at that point, maybe 18 years, I was a bit terrified because of what I always hear about Kingston, Jamaica. So I kind of drew close to my sister-in-law and I asked her, what was that? It sounded like quarreling. And she says, oh, no, it's not quarreling. It's actually a song. But I said, I heard something like gunshot. She says, oh, that's just I think the box firing, whatever that means. So I got closer to where what sounded like noise at first. And I heard the name Vybz Kartel for the first time. Vybz Kartel. He was the one that was doing a song on that, somebody was playing his music. And it was kind of scary. And I thought to myself, so who is this new guy, Vybz Kartel? So when I got home, I had 2 teenage nephews at the time. And one of them said that he was Gaza and the other one said he was Gully. So I was like, what does that mean? So he says, well, there's these 2 artists and, Vybz Kartel, is Gaza. And the other guy, Mavado, is Gully. So I started asking more questions. When I returned to Canada, I was taking this course. And the professor mentioned Vybz Kartel one day in one of her lectures. And she started to depack or unpack some of this music and trying to tell us what he represented. And so I started paying closer attention to him. The first song from Vybz Kartel that I actually liked was Coloring Book. And then the next one was Summertime. I have not always liked all his music, but I have not rejected it. And here's why. And here is who I see Vybz Kartel as, and how I think he has worked to create the new Jamaica. Now, the average government person or elite person in Jamaica paints a different picture than the one I'm going to give you. When I think of Vybz Kartel, I think of rebellion. You've heard me say that before. And I think rebellion oftentimes leads to revolution, and not all revolution is bloody. So in my opinion, Vybz Kartel represents a kind of revolution in Jamaica, whether you like it or not. You see, the elites in Jamaica wanted to paint him as this violent person who is responsible for corrupting the nation. And they locked him away. And after he went to prison, there was more gun violence in Jamaica than ever before. You see, the government of our country always look for a scapegoat. They don't like to take responsibility for what they have created. And they have created a group of clown-like following. People follow them around like clones, like, seeing them as if they are untouchable. So before Vybz Kartel stepped on the scene, government, politicians were untouchable. People didn't really criticize them. People didn't really critique what they were doing. People didn't, challenge them. And here comes this guy, Vybz Kartel. Suddenly, quite belligerent, quite, unafraid, came out here. He had so much to lose. So many individuals in the music industry, fraternity of dancehall, when they come on the scene, they're just trying to make their name. They're trying to, break out or bust, as they call it. And it would have done him well. And he could have had this fantastic career, could have become a millionaire, because the kind of work that he's put in, the kind of discipline he's put in creating his brand, is admired by people in academic circles. You see, what Jamaican government and the politicians alike, and maybe even some people in the police force who probably have some private disagreement with Vybz Kartel, because I don't think all of this just comes from just this one situation where he's accused of killing somebody. He rubbed somebody the wrong way. But more than anything else, I think governments fear the kind of control he has over people. But suddenly, for the first time in Jamaican history, the political figure was no longer the one that gained all the respect. See, no matter what happened, what they did or didn't do, they had control of people, whether it be JLP or PNP. And suddenly this ghetto guy comes out and start to critique. And not just critique political people, but critique very wealthy people in Jamaica. The elites did not like where this little dirty foot boy come from. So they started to make the excuse that, the swearing and the, negative things that he would say in his music was influencing the young people in horrible ways. But what they failed to say is that Jamaica had already started failing the youths. The parents' role that they play in the household was finally diminished. And now these individuals were looking for outsiders to raise their children. Now, I'm not saying as an artist you don't understand the power you wield and you don't know that, you have the ability to influence persons in a very positive way. But I think when he got on the scene, he was not trying to influence anybody. What he was trying to do is to provoke. He was trying to provoke a certain response because he learned or saw enough to understand that Jamaica, even though it has as many churches per square mile and love to brag about that, is not a place that is highly moral. No, in the mind, but not in the action. And so you'll have individuals who live some very dirty base life. And they're the ones who always come out here telling you how to live your own life. I think his rebellion took that place. When we talk about rebellion or resistance to whatever, we tend to think about our heroes and how they came to save black folks and deliver us from, evil. But rebellion and resistance take many forms. And so I think he became the general, the sergeant major for ghetto people, because he saw the way people who were underprivileged, the people who, were removed from the elite, if I can put it that way, how they were treated. And he became sort of the poor people's or the ghetto people's general. And so he started to attack the system. Now remember, wherever you live in the world, you cannot attack the system and not expect to be punished. But there's something about this guy, that rebellion in him. And I can imagine if he uses that, if he gets an opportunity to leave prison and come out and take that power. You have to recognize when individuals have a certain kind of natural or innate ability to amass a following, to really get people to like you. It's a skill. Not all of us can do that. Some of us will be able to gather a few people, maybe some strong people, some strong-minded people to come, but it's difficult to get a large group of people across social and political and financial lines to really join in. And I think what Jamaica people don't realize, or at least the government doesn't realize, is that Vybz Kartel doesn't just have dunce people following him or appreciating him or respecting him. He doesn't just have poor people who nobody cares about, who you can just go around and slap and kick and dash away and nobody cares. He has powerful people around the world who look at his music and look at his bravery. Because you have to be very brave to stand up to politicians in Jamaica. They will dash away the keys, as they try to do in the Vybz Kartel situation. Now, I don't want to go into the commentary about if he's guilty or if he's innocent. I don't even want to touch too much on the appeal, except to say that in my opinion, in my humble opinion, even if the government of Jamaica had reason to believe that he was involved in something treacherous, I believe that the evidence are so powerful or so strong against Vybz Kartel that I have to question them. Everything lining up so perfectly, I question them. Now, I hear video or see video evidence, I hear, text, read text messages, and I hear audio, and I'm thinking to myself, these individuals use code words to describe so-called criminal intent or intention, but they're so careless in mentioning the person who they killed. So in one perhaps video, you hear people talking about locking away shoes, or the phone evidence locking away shoes, and at the same time blatantly calling somebody's name with dash away lizard. That text message, listen to me, prosecutor, police, government body, you really tried. Maybe in your mind you thought that this young man really was influencing the people in Jamaica in a way that you think was destructive. But you tried too hard. You should have collected the evidence you claim you had against him, and you should have presented to the people and hope that the people that are sitting on the jury will have enough common sense to hear and watch and see for themselves and come to that decision. But to create all these evidence, which most were fabricated, it's very obvious. In your anxiety or your excitement to put away this man, you have done injustice. You have done injustice. So I'm not here to say that he's guilty or innocent. I'm just saying that when you compiled your evidence against him to make sure that it stick, you erred. But I'm not spending any time talking to you about this. What I want to say to the government of Jamaica is that you've gotten away with crime and violence towards your people for far too long. You have gotten away with killing the mind and the spirit and the finances of Jamaican people. And for a long time, they looked to you for leadership. For a long time, they looked to you for redemption. For a long time, they looked to you, with hope for prosperity. And you failed them. So many of you have failed the people. You sold out our resources. You gave opportunities to foreigners that you never gave to the Jamaican people. And even to this day, those who are forced to create their own jobs, see, you didn't create a job for them. And those who are forced to create their own job, you send police and you send other authorities to go and destroy them. It's as if you're getting paid to destroy the people. You're getting paid to destroy your own people. And then you have the nerve to come out and speak in codes about evil being over you and wicked people doing things to you when you're doing worse to your own people. So Vybz Kartel became a tyrannical leader in some response or some ways. The way he would address people, the way he was so belligerent, the way he would just sing the music as if there's something in his spirit. There's that warrior spirit in him that allowed him to do that. Sort of turn things upside down, expose. Just like another leader that I see now, is exposing the truth about who United States of America have been and who they are still. And other places in the world. You see, we all like to present ourselves as perfect, and we're not. We are all imperfect. We all have our vices. Some people will speak this way. Now, when I hear the words that were coming from that video, it made me nervous. As a Jamaican person who has sworn a time or two, when I heard that song, because there's some Jamaican bad words that makes me nervous. And there's some individuals that will say that same word, you know, the BC. When they say that word, it makes me tremble because some people say it with such zeal. If they were to throw that at you, you get nervous. It's like a bullet. And so when I heard some of those words coming from the song, it made me nervous. But something about his rebellion really intrigued me, because I thought it's about time that someone come here and, you know, turn their fakeness upside down. So some of you here, you know, you don't like him and you have a reason not to like him. But I think I'm not here to judge if he did that or not. I'm just glad that he went to Jamaica. Well, not went, because that's where he's from. That he stood in the face of oppression. And he stood in the face of hypocrites and really gave it to them. You look at all these elites, from government or otherwise, who commit crime in Jamaica. And even though they say no one is above the law, these individuals manage to have these narrow escapes. They steal, they kill, whether it be motor vehicular killings or, you know, shootings in their household or whatever, and no one forces them to explain. I've seen a pregnant woman get shot and killed, and what came from her case. I've seen the Tivoli Garden inquiry go down in a way where, at the end of the day, others benefit from the suffering and the pain of our people. You know, when the Tivoli Garden situation occurred, people died, lost their homes, so on and so forth. And instead of the government acknowledging their part in it, what did they do? They brought persons from outside to come in and tell them what they already knew and lied to the people. And the same people that were part of the coalition to get rid of that man Dudos came out and said, yes, we were involved, even though our government denied it. And the millions that was spent for that investigation, how wonderful it would have been if they allowed everybody who lost loved one or property to have some money to say, here, start a business. You see an old woman selling ackee on the side of the street, being manhandled. You see somebody out there, you did not create a job for somebody. And they're doing something to send their children because what? You want the masses to stay poor. You want individuals. You want individuals to suffer. And when you keep them in that place, they will forever be indebted to you. Always have their eyes up to heaven with their hands out, begging for mercy, as is the case with your beautiful statue. Begging for mercy. So this guy, Vybz Kartel, came and, you know, provoked a certain response from people who are already feeling that way. The mistake the government is making is that Vybz Kartel is causing it. He's not causing it. He's only feeding on what he knows. He only, you know, is saying what the masses is thinking. Now, he might have had a sordid past. He might have done some bad things. I don't know. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that he created a certain kind of response that frightened our governments. And what they should be asking themselves is, okay, how does this guy, you know, not as powerful as we are, you know, financially or in terms of political, you know, strength and all that, how was he able to do that? Find that out for yourself and do that to the people. And I'm going to say here, unapologetically, any person in Jamaica who want to, you know, change the status quo, they're usually targeted, or they're usually put out there as if they have done something wicked. Now, the young political leaders like Lisa Anna and I forget this other guy's name. These guys are pushed aside. Or people are tempted to push them out or push them aside because these guys who are in power, they don't want to. And I'm not saying when you're older should depart, because older folks must have wisdom and should be able to pass that down to the next generation. But we're not a society of people who believe that, okay, we are the elders. Let's pass down what we know to the young people and allow them to be creative and bring new energy to this thing. It's a new time. They have, the internet. They have exposure to other places in the world and other ways how things are done in the world. Let's push them, encourage them. We teach them the technical aspect of political life, and we allow them to come in with their new mind. How many of these politicians have young people shadowing them? How many of them are prepared? They fear the young people. They fear the young people. They don't want to step aside. It's been like that for a long time. I remember as a young girl getting my first job at a place where I did accounting in high school. And I was supposed to shadow this lady to do the computer. Sorry, not the computer, the accounting side of things. And she wouldn't show me the books. She would hide the ledgers from me. And one day she was going home, she fell down, broke her arm, and that's how I got that job. Now, I don't feel happy that she broke her arm, but it just goes to show, stop holding on to power, stop holding on to things, because at the end of the day, you're going to go. The young people are coming, you're going. So, Vybz Kartel became the pariah. He was suddenly responsible for all the things that government and community failed to do. This is why I support him. And I don't see enough evidence. And even if I did, and listen, don't forget, someone died. And, you can't discredit that or discount that someone supposedly died. Because we don't really know that for sure because they didn't find a body. But this person might have died at the hand of someone. And we're assuming it's him because the evidence is against him. But, in a place or a society where someone wants to get rid of somebody, they will make it happen. And that's what happened to Vybz Kartel. But I just want to say to the government of Jamaica, stop underestimating his worth and stop making it seem as if all he did was just negative. There are people, there are lawyers, there are doctors, there are teachers, there are professors who talk about him. And just like you disrespected Bob Marley, past generation of elites in Jamaica and other folks who are, privileged. Just like how individuals disrespected Usain Bolt and said that he didn't belong in that community. The prejudice in Jamaica, it's just too real. And oftentimes our people tend to want to align themselves with individuals from Jamaica after they've made it. But in the process of trying to make it, let me tell you, the way they treat you, the way they speak to you, and even at the point where you're about to come to that threshold, you're about to cross over, they will do something to sabotage you. I listened to Rapper Crapper talk about his movie premiere. Big up yourself, Rapper Crapper. And how individuals, and I'm sure it's people from our own country, people from our own culture, people from our own race that would call in and tell lies on him to try to get his movie premiere shut down. But they can't keep a good man down or a good woman down. And like he said, the ancestors are there. I couldn't have agreed more. The ancestors are always watching. And so if the case against Vybz Kartel is one that is fixed and, to destroy him, the spirits see. And they know. And every single person who have had any hand in doing something that is not right, if he's innocent, you see, I say if he's innocent, I guarantee you, every one of those persons better get down. I don't know, I was going to say get down on your knees, but that served no function. I suggest you do what you can to free him, because you can only lock somebody away for so long when they're innocent. Eventually, you will be exposed for what you have done. And if Vybz Kartel did do those things, and the ancestors decide not to assist him and free him, I still say I am grateful for what he did, because he turned Jamaica upside down by showing people that they didn't have to sit there complacent and they didn't have to show respect to people who didn't deserve respect. Before I finish, I'm also going to mention another lady. She has since passed away, rest in peace, but she was from my community. And we had so many churches in our community. And her husband went to farm work and bought her some big sound system. And every Sunday morning she would play Peter Tosh, Oh, BC. You know that song. And as a little girl, you know, people would scorn and scoff and talk about it. And I would think to myself, why would she do that, knowing that this community is filled with all these Christian people? And as I got older, I looked at her and I really admired her, because sometimes you really have to do that. Sometimes you really have to really challenge these individuals, and you have to stamp out hypocrisy when you see it. And sometimes the way to do it is through music. Just like Vybz Kartel did, just like this lady. I don't want to mention her name, but she used to be a fireball, and I loved her for it. Things are going to change. So those of you in Jamaica who don't want it to change, and it's going to change through the young people. Those who are younger than us are going to come up and they're going to stand against whatever, and they're going to push against the grain. And I might not always approve of the methods in which they do it. And I might not always say, wow, that's how I would do it. But I wouldn't do it that way. But what changes have I made? And if the young people decide that they don't want to hear any talk anymore, they want to see action. And if they don't see action, they're going to behave badly. It is part of that resistance. It's part of that spirit that dwells in us, that produce people like Bogle and Sam Sharp and, you know, all these revolutionary fighters in the past. We're not just fighting outsiders. We're challenging ourselves and challenging the people in our midst, because the world is changing. And the more it changes, the more things remain the same for Black people. So those of you who don't understand how Vybz Kartel became the way he is and why he became the way he is, take a look at the Jamaican society and see how their actions or inactions have fueled this kind of rage in people. And individuals from the ghetto finding music as a vehicle out of their oppression and their struggles. Music and sports have been two of the most powerful tools that they have used to get out. And how even when they're crawling on their belly, like Chronic say, and trying to come out, individuals are insisting on keeping them down. Because guess what? The more you dumb down the people, the more you take away opportunities from people, the more you keep them, you know, subject to you, docile. It's not that place anymore. Jamaica is not that place anymore. The people have become more violent in their mind and in their spirit, and in their actions you're seeing it. So instead of just looking at the outcome, look at the road to the outcome. How many young people have suffered so much, and watched just across the street, the neighborhood, where people's children have so much privilege. These things will make you angry. These things will bring out rage in you. So I hope that justice prevails, and that if he's innocent, he's freed. It doesn't seem like it's coming anytime soon. Those of you who already made up your mind and said that yes, he did, you don't know anything. You don't know if he did it. Because those voice notes and those, it could be something that happened in the past. It didn't have to be the one that you use now. And let's keep it real. Based on that movie Shutters, you know, police and political people have used these ghetto youths to do their dirty deeds in the past. Control them at will until eventually these guys break out. I'm not saying I'm supporting violence, but I'm also saying that instead of just judging people who become violent, take a look at their life, look at their struggles, look at their suffering, and understand that you might have participated to that. When the child was hungry, you didn't feed him. And when you don't feed that hungry child, that child becomes angry. That child is naked. You don't clothe that kid. You don't offer that kid opportunity. That young person come to you with a business idea. What do? You shut them down. You dismiss them. You're not rescuing the youths from their young by giving them opportunity. You leave them to suffer. And when they become violent because they can't take that suffering anymore, you talk about the situation, the end state or the end game. I hope if he's released, he'll come forward and use that power that he has to do good. And I hope if he's not guilty, they find the person who may or have killed that individual. But Jamaica, be warned, because you're sitting on a volcano and the people are getting restless, and your lies, nobody's buying your lies anymore. Nobody believes in you anymore. No one respects you anymore. And so if you hate Vybz Kartel for that reason, I can understand, because guess what? He has finally turned the place upside down, only in the way that he's shown people that they should want more and they should not pay any attention to you. That's why when you have your elections, people are not paying you much mind anymore. Just a few who you have dumbed down. But a lot of people are waking. They are waking up. They're waking up. They're waking up. And they're not buying your lies anymore. Be blessed, everyone.